A real Manhattan is not just a drink, it's a statement. And if you're going to do it right. Hey guys, welcome back to the Common Sense Dad. Today we're making a real Manhattan the way it was meant to be made. No shortcuts, no nonsense, just a smooth, perfectly balanced cocktail that'll make you feel like you belong in a dimly lit bar in Manhattan, even if you're just in your own kitchen. I'll walk you through the right ingredients, the right technique, and the one mistake that'll ruin the whole thing. So let's get to it. This is the Jerome Mansion, home of the legendary Manhattan Club. Founded in 1865 by Attorney General John Van Buren, son of U.S. President Martin Van Buren. Legend states that the Manhattan cocktail originated at this club in the early 1870s, where it was invented by Dr. Ian Marshall for a banquet hosted by Jennie Jerome, Lady Randolph Churchill, or Winston Churchill's mother, in honor of presidential candidate Samuel J. Tilden. The success of the banquet made the drink fashionable, later prompting several people to request the drink by referring to the name of the club where it originated, the Manhattan Cocktail. The Manhattan cocktail is one of the most iconic and enduring classic cocktails, with a rich history dating back to the 19th century. Its origins are somewhat debated, but the most famous story attributes its creation to the Manhattan Club in New York City in the early 1880s. The Manhattan evolved from earlier whiskey-based cocktails as vermouth became popular in the US during the late 19th century. The combination of whiskey, sweet vermouth, and bitters quickly gained popularity due to its bold yet balanced flavor. The Manhattan was first recorded in O.H. Byron's 1884 cocktail book, making it one of the earliest documented cocktails still widely enjoyed today. Originally, rye whiskey was the spirit of choice, as it was the most common whiskey at the time. However, bourbon became a popular alternative, particularly after Prohibition. Early versions of the Manhattan were also sometimes made with absinthe or maraschino liqueur instead of bitters. The Manhattan remains a staple in cocktail bars worldwide due to its simplicity, elegance, and deep rooted history and mixology. A well crafted Manhattan is a testament to timeless cocktail craftsmanship. All right, welcome to my bar. So, today, what I want to do is show you how to make my favorite drink, original Manhattan. All right, so the Manhattan really consists of three ingredients. So you've got your rye whiskey, and so in this case, I'm going to be using a 6-year Whistle Pig. This just happens to be one of my favorite. I actually like the 8-year better, but this is what I have in stock. And then sweet vermouth, some bitters, and then a maraschino cherry. You want 2 parts rye whiskey, 1 part sweet vermouth, and then 2 dashes of bitters, and then I use Luxardo cherries. So I'm going to show you how I make it. So I first put the cherries in my glass here. So I'm using a Army Black Knights tumbler here. So I use 3, and I'll take a scoop that big, and the syrup that's in there with the cherries also goes in. Then I pour in my whiskey. So I'm going to go about right there. All right. Then after the whiskey, I put in the sweet vermouth. Then I'm going to do my 2 dashes of bitters. And try not to spill it on my countertop. All right. So we're going to mix that up. Now you notice I'm making this neat right now. And then what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll chill it with an ice block. All right, let's give it a taste. Yeah, that's perfect. All right, so what I want to do is show you the different types of Manhattan. So the original, which dates back to about 1880, which I just made. Then there's what's called the dry Manhattan, which is same thing. You use a rye whiskey, and then instead of sweet vermouth, you use dry vermouth. Same thing, 2 parts whiskey, 1 part vermouth. Same bitters. The only difference is instead of a maraschino cherry, you usually do a lemon twist, okay? And my father, for example, is a big fan of the dry Manhattan. So what he'll do is he'll take either an orange peel or lemon peel and wrap it around the rim of the glass and then do the twist and dump. Okay. Then you have what's called the perfect Manhattan. And the perfect Manhattan is made same rye whiskey, 2 parts rye whiskey, and then half sweet vermouth, half dry vermouth. And then you'll add your bitters, everything else, same. Maraschino cherry on top. All right, then you have the Rob Roy. And the Rob Roy is the same thing, except instead of a rye whiskey, you're using a Scotch whiskey, right? So, and that's in a whole nother video we could do, the difference between Scotch, whiskey, and bourbon. They're essentially all the same. They're all whiskeys, right? So I just brought just 2 examples. So you could do Lagavulin, okay, which is a great Scotch, and then Lafroig. And if you really want to put some hair on your chest, this is what you want to do. You don't want to make a Rob Roy out of Macallan because you just completely ruin the Scotch by doing that. As much as I love the Manhattan, Macallan is something you savor on its own. All right. And then the black Manhattan, which the difference is instead of a vermouth, you use an Amaro. And so here I just have Montenegro, which is an Italian Amaro. All right. So enjoy. I know I am. Okay. So one of the other things we should talk about is that the Manhattan is also made with, instead of whiskey, bourbon. And this became really popular in the US after Prohibition. The major difference between bourbon and a rye whiskey is obviously bourbon has to have a 51% corn mash bill for it to be a bourbon. Bourbon in a Manhattan actually tastes pretty much just the same, except it's a little bit sweeter going down. So good bourbons to use in a Manhattan would be like Four Roses. That's a really good bourbon. Woodford Reserve. There's a myth that's going around that's saying that the Manhattan, they have a northern style and a southern style, and that's absolutely false. There's no such thing as a northern style and southern style. It's just that bourbon became more readily available after Prohibition. So you can still make it out of rye whiskey. That is the original, but that's because that's what it was being produced at the time that the Manhattan was invented. And you can use bourbon. Both are perfectly acceptable. I prefer the rye because it has a little bit drier and tougher, spicier taste. And I sort of offset that by using my Luxardo cherries. This just happens to be my favorite way of making it. And actually the best part of the Manhattan is at the very end when you get to get that last drop and you suck down all 3 cherries. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know, what's your favorite drink? Let's see if we can mix something together. Talk to you soon.